Namaste. My name is Mika. Welcome to yoga. We're going to be exploring how we want to adjust the body in certain yoga poses and how we breathe and unlock areas that you might not have moved in before. So let's start in a comfortable seated position or on your knees. And we're just going to take a few minutes just breathing together, centering ourselves and getting our heads and our bodies into a place of this practice. So when you're ready, sitting a little taller in your spine, lengthen through the top of your head. Maybe roll your shoulders a few times, rolling them back and down and settling them away from your ears. I invite you to close your eyes here and just feel what it's like when you inhale, feeling your chest expand, becoming more aware and conscious of that breath. Maybe sighing it out through the mouth, feeling your body adjust as it settles, connecting our breath with our movement. Inhaling and sighing it out, exhaling, relaxing your elbows a little more, relaxing your hips a little more, sinking them into the floor or onto your heels. And on your next exhale, let all your air out at the bottom. Pausing at the bottom of your breath. Hold your breath there. And then inhale deeply for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold your breath there. And through the nose, exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and pause here. Through the nose, inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hold. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold. Again, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold. Inhale again, taking your own count in your mind, breathing deeply, feeling your chest expand, and pausing at the top when you get there. And take your own exhale count down, pausing at the bottom. Just another few cycles here if you're breathing as we center and reconnect within. At the bottom of your final exhale, just return back to natural breathing, letting go of the hold, letting go of the count. Just breathing at a natural pace for yourself. And while we're in this space, just acknowledge how you feel and what do you notice. When was the last time that you just stopped and closed your eyes and breathed? Maybe when you were sleeping. So gently, if you feel okay here, open your eyes, let the light back in. And let's take a deep breath in, raising your hands up to the ceiling, stretching nice and long and tall. And exhale, take your right hand down and lengthen the left arm over your ear, maybe looking up to the ceiling. Enjoy the stretch all the way, all from your left hip up the side of the body. Straighten and strengthen that left arm. Inhale, reach the body up, take both hands to the ceiling. And exhale to the other side. Yeah, feels good. Breathe here, lengthen that right arm. Maybe open the chest a little more. Looking up to the ceiling if that feels good. Inhale, lift both arms up. And exhale, fold forward, taking your hands to the floor. And just feeling a gentle bow here in the body, taking your forehead or just rolling the spine forward. Just relaxing here. Feeling a stretch across your hips, maybe in your inner groin. If you're on your knees, it might feel nice to open the knees a little bit. And if you're sitting on the floor, that's fine. Just relax here. Inhale, roll the spine up, reach up to the ceiling again, breathe deeply. And exhale, take the hands by your side. Beautiful. Let's come to our first pose, Adho Mukha Svanasana or downward facing dog. To find your downward dog, I find it's best to have your hands under your shoulders. Your wrists are under your shoulders. Your index fingers are pointing up to the short edge of your mat. And you want to imagine that you're opening jars with your hands. Your hands are having an external rotation. They're going outwards. So with the grip of the mat or the floor, you keep them in position and you give that kind of torque or outer force to get your shoulders to plug more securely into the socket. And that's really key alignment here. Most yoga poses, pretty much all our yoga poses on the floor, are done on our hands, and our shoulders take a lot of that weight. So these are really cool things to consider as you learn how movement works in your body and start to feel it translate there. So get your hands in that position, external rotation, feel what that does to your shoulder joint, and then push your shoulders, draw them down away from your ears, almost like you're plugging them into your back. That flattens the shoulder blades onto your back, and you have a way more stable position to not overstrain your shoulders. At the same time as that outer rotation, pushing the shoulders down, push up through the hands. And your muscles are supporting all of those joints there. 5 joints in the shoulders. Crazy. When you're ready, let's lift the hips up. So step back into a plank and then push back, lift the hips up, keep the knees soft. Take some calming breaths here and relax your neck down. Great. You can just pedal here. We call this walking the dog. So pushing one heel down towards the mat and then pushing the other heel down. Your neck should be nice and relaxed in between your hands. Lift your tailbone up to the ceiling. I like to bend my knees a little more here, waving my tailbone up. I want length in my back, in my spine. Take some deeper breaths here. Maybe side out through the mouth. And then just settle here in the pose. Take another couple of breaths at your own pace. And just with that rotation of the hands again, remember, push back through the hands, externally rotate, open those jars with your hands. Feel your shoulders plug into your socket or your joint there. When you're ready, look to the hands, bend the knees. We're going to be walking our hands back towards our feet. So keep your knees bent as you walk back, and then lift yourself up halfway, bringing your hands above your knees. We call this a halfway lift or an Adho Uttanasana. And then exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana, hinging from the hips, relaxing the knees a little bit so that you don't feel too tight in the hamstrings. And just floppy doll those arms. We call this raggy doll. And just spin them around your feet. Opening up, lengthening the hamstrings, stretching the lower back. Beautiful. Bending the knees a little more. Let's roll the spine all the way up to the ceiling. Inhale, reach up to the sky. Exhale, take your hands down by your sides. roll out the shoulders, and just spin the upper body, opening up the back. Great, so we talked about downward facing dog, how we want those shoulders to be. We're gonna do that translation in a plank now. So when you're ready, inhale, lift the hands up. Exhale, forward fold. Let's go to that halfway lift again. Inhale, maybe hands above your knees or on your shins. Flatten your back, lengthen the spine. That cord is pulling you up through the crown of the head to get a long, neutral spine. And then exhale, take your hands to the ground and walk them forward to a plank pose. Same as before, hand position's the same, hands are under shoulders. You're gonna be tucking your tailbone under here, and an option in this pose is to drop your knees to regress it to a low plank. This is really important. A lot of people want to go, yeah, I can hold a full plank, and all of that weight on their shoulders and their wrists might be too intense in these initial stages. So you adjust for yourself in your low plank. Make sure that your hips aren't lifting up. Your shoulders come over your wrists, and you draw your pelvis down towards the ground and tuck it under. Feel what that's like. Translate the movement in your body so that when you are doing yoga, you understand where your body is at and what it needs to adjust. So lifting up those knees if you're in full plank with me, and then exhale to downward facing dog, push back. Inhale to plank. Let's do this a few times, slowly adjusting the movement, and then exhale, downward dog. Inhale to plank. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale to plank. Exhale, downward dog. Bending the knees, walk the hands back towards your feet, using your strength, using control, nice and slow. And then inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, flat back. Preparation pose, lengthen the spine, opening the chest, feeling like your breath is nice and deep. And then exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, roll up to the ceiling, reach up. This is called Urdhva Namaskarasana. We're saluting the sky here. And then exhale, hands come down by your side. Beautiful. Let's do another kind of pose that might be a little bit tricky in yoga when your hips are tight or things like this, and how do you adjust for that? So we're going to come into a yogi squat. When your hips are tight, it can be really hard to get yourself down into a squat position, and people are usually figuring out like how do they do that? So to align ourselves better, come down into a little froggy hop. Imagine you're in that kind of position. Take your feet maybe a little bit, your toes a little bit wider than your hips. It can also be really good to have a chair kind of to hold onto or to, support yourself. Otherwise, take yourself to the floor. Now, the aim is, a full squat is to get your feet down on the mat. What tends to happen is you feel like you're rolling back when your hips are tight and they're not opening enough for you. So your arms can be that counterweight. So in our squat, you can stay on your toes. Again, you're stretching and lengthening all of the tendons behind here and your lower calf muscles. Your feet, we want to stretch them as well. So open up in this squat. Feel like you're a frog. If you're up here, because you can't go any lower, just come onto your toes and adjust for yourself. If you have pain anywhere and you can't do this squat, that's fine. You can just come down to your knees and just stretch here, because it might be hips, could be knee tightness, you never know. So just for yourself in this pose, if you're still here, you're stretching right now, so that's great. You can lift yourself up to start getting into a stronger squat. You're using your glutes and your quads. Your knee joints are working strong for you here to be able to take your heels flat to the mat. If your hands come out, you're engaging your core and your back to support you. This is hot work. It's really hard. Feel what your body's doing in this pose. And then take your hands down, lift the hips, come onto your toes, and come back to your squat. Feel the warmth in that body all of a sudden. Everything turning on. Use your breath. Calm yourself down. Refocus. So if we're going to try and sit back without rolling backwards, come onto your toes, bring your hands out. Maybe you want to support yourself with one hand and see if you can just slowly, by opening up those hips, come back into a little yogic squat here. Malasana. Breathe. It could be nice to take the hands down and out in the squat here, like this. So wherever you're at, if you're here on your toes and you feel like your hips are kind of getting tired and working, that's exactly what I'm experiencing as I'm in this. So it's just as we develop and work in our bodies that these changes happen, and you can always adjust for where you're at. Okay, let's release the pose. Whew, let's bring our knees down, bring our toes towards each other. I'm going to come into child's pose and just slowly sink back here. Now, if child's pose is also hard, you can walk your body forward a little bit, bringing your elbows down to the mat, and then just gently push back, taking your chest towards the mat. Maybe relaxing your forehead down on the mat here. If you're able, sink your bottom back so that it's more weighted behind and towards your heels, and then rest here in child's pose. Take a few breaths, side out through the mouth. Let's take our upper body over the right thigh, so stretching through the left side of the back. Inhale back to center, and exhale to the other side. What do you notice in your hip joints here, in your lower back, even all the way up towards the lats, your latissimus dorsi, up the sides under your armpit here? What do you notice as you stretch long, grip the floor and lengthen that stretch? Inhale back to the center, and then exhale, draw your body up into a kneeling pose. Great. Final little pose before we give some time to relax in Shavasana. Let's come down onto the mat. Support yourself to get there, rolling back. So nice. Bring your heels in a little bit here. And then we want our feet to be hip width apart, knees are hip width apart, and just brush your fingers on your heels. Roll the shoulders out. Kind of on the outer edges of your arms, your shoulder blades are squeezing underneath you. Your palms are flat on the mat. On your next exhale, we're going to lift the hips into a bridge pose. Squeeze up, engage your core, squeeze your pelvic floor muscles, and squeeze your glutes together. We want to push our feet into the grip of the mat. You can see here on the video that I can kind of move myself depending where I push into the mat. So push your feet up, squeeze the hips a little more, and imagine that you're trying to draw your knees together, obviously not touching, but kind of drawing them together. Breathe here. And then exhale, lower the hips, lower the pelvis. Take the legs out straight in front of you. Inhale, reach your hands above your head. And then exhale, take them down by your side. Take your feet hip width apart or a little wider than your hips. Palms are face up. And just gently close your eyes here in Shavasana, allowing your body to relax. You're welcome to stay here in Shavasana and take your time. Maybe pause the video. Otherwise, thank you so much for practicing with me. I hope some of those little tricks as you adjust yourself in yoga poses is helpful to you and will help you as you progress on this journey. Thank you so much. Namaste.